Ole Miss podcast starting December 13th. I'm here to tell you that you can subscribe now on Apple and Spotify, and I'll be sure to let you know the new YouTube link when it comes out. Listen to the show and hear a perspective that is completely different than those that are already out there. I know their world after 10 years in the media, and I also know the staff's world thanks to 3 years in the Manning Center. So subscribe now and hit the bell and get the reminder you need because you won't want to miss this. Hey, welcome to the podcast with Stephen Willis. We're going to start in a few minutes, but I want to tell you to hit up our social sites, retweet, share, comment, like, do all of that stuff. It can only help us out and it'll make the show even better. But we're getting ready to give you a lot of good Ole Miss information, and I just thought I would tell you that because the podcast is starting. Well, it's starting right now. Wait, no, that's a little early. It is starting right about now. Hey, good morning. Happy Friday. Happy post-Egg Bowl Friday. I am your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for joining me. As you can see, it's a little bit of a new look today, and it will be for the remainder. I think we have next Friday as our last show as the podcast, and then we will start transitioning over to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. As you know, we are on y'all's conference network, YCN_SEC, on Twitch, on Twitter. You can just search y'all's conference network on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. And also you can search on Apple and Spotify and Google and all your podcatchers. Search the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Subscribe to that now. You'll get a reminder whenever we get go live on the 13th. And you will not forget about it. It'll work out for you. So Ole Miss, a 31-21 victor over the Mississippi State Bulldogs in a game that honestly wasn't that close. I think DJ Durkin had a really good plan defensively for what Mike Leach was going to do. Just keep everything in front of you. You want them to throw the ball within 2 or 3 yards and then rally and tackle. Mississippi State made some plays early on by breaking that first tackle and getting to the next level, gaining 3 or 4 extra yards. But at the end of the day, that defense just kind of just choked down on the air raid at Mississippi State, and they struggled to do much of anything. Sam Williams had a fantastic day. He victimized Scott Lashley all night, but Charles Cross on the other side, Sam Williams actually got the better of him a few times as well. But what they did to Scott Lashley is, they obviously saw that on film and wanted to attack that. And defensively, that's where you saw Sam Williams most of the night on Scott Lashley, getting a quick get off. Got a couple of false starts from Scott Lashley during the game of him trying to deal with the fact that Sam Williams is coming. That was a weapon. And because of that, with a 3-man rush, they were able to get pressure on Will Rogers and keep him from going through his progressions over and over and over again. So that was a big play as well. Offensively in the second half, the offense came alive. We talked about all week what Mississippi State does defensively and how this is the Jolie Dunn tree and what happens between the tackles and the double A gap blitz and how they handle tempo. And Ole Miss fought that. Honestly, if Mississippi State was going to clog up the middle like we told you they would and play cloud coverage over the top, that opened up the little swing passes to Dontario Drummond and Jerry Neely. And Mississippi State never adjusted because Mississippi State was scared of the inside zone. And they knew that if that got going, it was curtains for that defense. So they had to stay strong there and hope that we would be stubborn and try and run it over and over and over again. And we just didn't do it. We started running outside zone and split zone, a little bit of a variation of the belly play. We started running all of that to get away from the guard tackle guard part of our offensive line, which is important for the Mississippi State defense to wreak havoc there. So all of a sudden we were hitting the B and the C gaps in the running game, and that opened up a little bit of space, and that didn't really necessarily let them do the double A gap blitz. That is their defense against tempo. That is what they did. They did it last year. Good morning, DGD Podcast. Good luck tomorrow as well. Hope your day goes as well as mine did yesterday. Um, and and another thing that was interesting in that game is Ole Miss combated State's defense because the way State wanted to handle tempo and the way State wanted to handle the way that tempo teams can repeat plays, because Jeff Lebby will call inside zone 10 times in a row if it's working, period. So Mississippi State had a plan in place to stop that from happening, because when our offense is really, really clicking, a lot of that is happening. Well, Ole Miss didn't run tempo. That was really interesting. They did not run tempo, especially in the second half, so that you basically could call audibles based off of the defense that was showing up for the Mississippi State. So they couldn't do their double A gap stuff. All of a sudden, the inside run started opening up. You saw Snoop Connor running from the pistol. And it's because all of that was opened up by not running tempo and also stretching the outside. They ran outside the box quite a bit, and they also threw those little swing passes that were designed with those cloud coverage that was very, very soft. There's a lot of 3v2s that Ole Miss got through running that to Dontario Drummond. So it was a game that once it was 24-6, honestly, it was over. Stacy Blackwood, our good friend at the Tide Talk podcast, actually tweeted out that that's the ball game and congratulated Ole Miss on 10 wins. You know, I was like, no, this is the Egg Bowl. There's some weird stuff that can happen still. And he was like, no, y'all are going to win. And we did. So one thing that is very important of this game, and this is going on, was the emotion that you saw on the sideline from Lane Kiffin. It's a level of emotion that really only comes out when a big game happens. The Alabama game, the Tennessee game, the Texas A&M game, and now the Mississippi State game. This was a game that he wanted. He wanted bad. And Mississippi State was, let's just call it what it is. That ring responsibly thing at Starkville was completely ignored, and they rang him for 60 minutes, except when they were on offense. The artificial noisemaker rule now, there's 13 in effect that can't have it, but one school can have it. Tradition be damned. It needs to go away. It needs to be an even playing field all the way through. If everybody else can only rely on their vocal cords for the amount of noise that is generated, they should not be given special dispensation over the other schools. It is what it is. They need to go away. And next year, be sure to search everybody through it, because the weaponry, those can be used as weapons in the stands. Melt them down, build a statue to Matt Corral. That's what you do. Next year, confiscate all the cowbells and build a statue to Matt Corral. That's how you handle that. Then they don't bring cowbells to Oxford because they get taken. Now, this can be bad news, because what if somebody's sneaking in alcohol if you're going to search all these people? Don't sneak in for that game. Get lit before you come in the stadium for that game. Or don't drink at all. Enjoy it. The flip side of that is, if nothing happens, Ole Miss needs to bring air horns. Absolute air horns to Starkville in 2023. And just blow them whenever State's on offense. If they're going to disregard the rules, there needs to be a fight back. Absolutely. But this was a game that was not competitive. Not even a little bit. And there was that four-play sequence right before the end of the half where Mississippi State kind of went bad news Bears and dropped three touchdown passes. They dropped them, and then they missed the field goal. So at that point right there, I felt really good about what was going on. really big thing that was going on, and also really hurt the confidence of Mississippi State's players. You could see the looks on their face in the second half. They honestly didn't believe they could get it done anymore. They really didn't. There was no confidence, and the second half was just honestly just a pushing them around. And late in the fourth quarter, when State went on their run and scored a couple of touchdowns, yeah, I'm not going to say it was meaningless, but it was basically, over. Now, it was a good win for Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin becomes the first Ole Miss coach since Billy Brewer to win his first 2 Egg Bowls. As we know, Billy kind of dominated that series as it goes. But in 83 and 84, he won that game. And he might have won it in 85 and 86 as well. 87, I think they lost. And then 88, 89, until 91, going back on campus, I think Billy handled business a little bit. That was back when the Billy Brewer and the Prince of Darkness and habitual liar stuff. If you think this Egg Bowl toxicity or whatever is new, it's not. Billy Brewer and Jackie Sherrill really went at it early in the 90s. It was interesting. Tommy Tuberville and Sherrill went at it. So this is something that happens pretty consistently. But Ole Miss wins on the heels of Matt Corral throwing for 229 yards, touchdown and interception. It was a weird interception. Corral kind of got a little bit fooled there. Dontario Drummond, 13 catches, 133 yards. Kel Nation made all of his kicks kicking the ball. Congratulations to Kel. Jaron Ely had a 32-yard return. Will Rogers threw for 336 and a touchdown. Some of that was in mop-up time. Running the ball, Mississippi State was at right about 85 yards. And Mekhi Polk was their leading receiver with 10 catches for 98 yards. Tulu Griffin went 5 for 77. He's the one that got blown up by Matt Brown on the sideline, by the way. And yeah, it was just one of those things where you have a game plan to win. And this is what they were going to do. And you're going to see them basically play most of the time the drop 8 stuff against a Mike Leach team. But now they're going to mix in some blitzes. So if Mike Leach runs the ball, Mississippi State has the ball 80 plays on offense. 65 of them is probably going to be drop 8. Now, with our ends and everything's going on, there were times when Cedric Johnson was playing nose guard in there. So it's really 3 defensive ends rushing the passer. So if it's the drop 8, 65 plays out of 80, the other 15 are going to be exotic blitzes. And it's designed to look the same every time you go under there, but these guys are coming. And they did a nice job of fooling Will Rogers in this game. So it was a fantastic game. I enjoyed it. The end of the first half, beginning of the second half was about as perfect as you can have in college football. And once it became 17-6, you started to breathe easy. Once Ole Miss hit 24-6, it was legitimately over. And once it hit 31-13, Lane did his to the crowd, and it was in fact over. And it's a good win, big win. Ole Miss 10-2, first 10-win regular season in Ole Miss history. And they have a shot at the bowl game. If they win the bowl game, they're going for their first 11-win season, bowl and everything, in their history. A top 5 ranking is at stake. First 11-win seasons at stake. This is big deal stuff. This is big-time stuff. And Matt Corral said that he's not going to opt out because we've said multiple times on this show, the legacy of a player. If the legacy of how you're thought of is important, you cannot afford to opt out. You just can't. Because that is going to affect your legacy now in the age of NIL and the age of the Austin ruling. Because you're actually getting paid for playing ball. It would be like skipping a day of work and how it is viewed that way. So now we we're probably going to do a fairly short show today because honestly, just to let you know, here after the show's over, we get all this uploaded. I'm going to the there's a Disney store that is kind of a clearance store that is over in Davenport, Florida, and we're looking for some stuff for our nephews, some stuff because coming up the week after next, the SEC Championship Day, whenever that happens, that first day we're going on vacation and we're actually doing a Disney trip. The whole family's coming down and we're going to Disney all during the week. So it should be pretty good. Should be a lot of fun. So, bowl games. Now, Ole Miss is the first school in the country that has essentially guaranteed themselves an access bowl, other than the playoff teams that are going for the playoffs. But the first team that is in the bottom of the list in that top 12, Ole Miss, guaranteed an access bowl with the win last night. So Ole Miss is looking at the Sugar, the Peach, or the Fiesta. Those are the three potential landing spots for the Ole Miss Rebels. I would potentially like to see them play in the Fiesta. It's just, that would be kind of interesting. The Sugar Bowl, just not against Oklahoma State. Nothing against Oklahoma State, no problem. But we've played them 3 times in bowl games in the last 18 years. And we just need a break. So we're hoping if it's the Sugar, we're hoping for Oklahoma or Baylor at this point. In the Peach Bowl, a Peach Bowl game or a Fiesta Bowl game against Notre Dame intrigues the hell out of me. I mean, that would be a lot of fun and generate a ton of excitement in the fan base. And, everybody coming back, everybody should be healthy by that game, and it should be interesting to see how it happens. Now, with our tempo and everything we do, you can't really simulate it, but it might be a situation where they're going to be a little bit better prepared than another team might be. So it is, it kind of is what it is. But, you could have Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl with Ole Miss. That'd be an SEC type game because Oklahoma's coming into the conference. And that'd be fun just to hang out with those guys, kind of like we did back in Texas A&M, Missouri in 2011. And, I think that year Missouri played Arkansas in like the Texas Bowl or something like that. And they got to have a little bit of fun as well going into the league. But Texas is not going to a bowl game. But Oklahoma is. And if Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State, they've earned the right to play them again for the Big 12 championship. Now, if Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State then just beats Oklahoma in the championship game, they would be the champion and would go to the Sugar Bowl. I think that is correct. If they are the champion, they go to the Sugar Bowl. That has become the de facto Cotton Bowl for the old Southwest Conference teams. The Sugar Bowl has become their champions game because the Sugar Bowl is called, it's the Champions Bowl. And technically, if there's an SEC champion and a Big 12 champion that are not in the playoffs, they're going to meet there. There's one or the other. So whoever wins that Big 12 championship game is going to the Sugar Bowl. If it's Oklahoma State, I'm hoping for the Fiesta or the Peach. Whether against Pittsburgh or against Notre Dame. That's what I'm rooting for there. Now, if Oklahoma is able to beat them twice, or Baylor ends up winning the Big 12 championship, I'm going to choose the Sugar Bowl because of what the Sugar Bowl is and what it means to play in that game. We're shooting for a top 5 ranking. We can recruit off of that. We can brand it all over. As you can see last night on social media, Arch Manning obviously watched the Egg Bowl, and that is an ultimate goal. As next season starts, over the next 5 months, actually, we're going to talk more and more about Arch Manning and that recruitment because he's going to have some coattails. He'll probably have larger coattails than you would even imagine. So there's a chance for a really special run. Remember, Ole Miss has made 3 Access Bowls in 7 years under 2 different coaches. There's probably 3 schools that can say that. Now, Ole Miss has not made a playoff. I will concede that. But anybody telling you anything about what Ole Miss can't do any longer, they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. And here's the dirty little secret that nobody wants to talk about. They're talking about how much money their Ole Miss is willing to pay Lane Kiffin. They have a $100 million budget now, and they're making it, and it's comfortable. And they're about to add $20 million to that in TV money. So what does that mean? It means he can pay whatever you want to pay, whatever you have to pay. And you should pay enough to keep Lane Kiffin. Because the difference between good and great when it comes to coaches is year 2. Now, Nick Saban at Alabama, 6-6 year 1. He went undefeated in year 2. Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, 5-5 in year 1, 10-2, maybe 11-2 in year 3 or year 2. Urban Meyer, undefeated at year 2s were successful for him at Utah, at Florida, and at Ohio State. Year 2 separates great from good. If you find somebody that is hyper successful in year 2, you need to treat them extremely special. You need to make sure they stick around for your job because everybody's going to be coming after him soon. Make him feel welcome. Do whatever needs to be done. If it's $8 million a year, which is rumored, plus incentives, fine. But we need to make that happen. We need to put that offer in front of him. He's not going to sign it until other coaches sign because he wants to make sure he's getting market value. Understandable. But just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean he didn't sign. He signed before the Outback Bowl last year. We didn't find out about it until July. So, this has been the, Palmcast. And it's going to be the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, search Apple and Spotify for Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Hit the bell for reminders. Turn it on. And that way, whenever we go live, you do not miss a thing. First couple of shows might be a little bit rough, but we're going to get into a groove and doing it because it's a little bit different format. So thank you for watching this, listening to this, however you want to say it. It's been a lot of fun. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I hope everybody's having a nice break. We will see you Monday. Remember, no Palmcast Tuesday. I got some medical stuff going on. So 4 more episodes of the Palmcast before we go off the air and get ready to transition to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hope everybody had a good time. Ole Miss a 31-21 victor over Mississippi State in Starkville. The Egg Trophy is staying in Oxford. So, with that knowledge, I just leave you with hotty toddy. Have a good day, y'all.